Hello and welcome to Friday night happy hour yoga, 5:30 at the Hatha Yoga Center in Seattle, Washington. My name is Chris and I think tonight we'll start in prayer pose on our mat. But before we do that, you might just bring your hands together at your heart and just pause for a moment and take a couple of breaths, just finding your balanced breath. Inhaling and exhaling through your nose, finding your long spine. And then you might bow your head to your heart and take a moment to set an intention for your practice this evening, or a dedication. Just taking a breath. And then opening your eyes. Hi, Laura. You can stalk me any day. I'm going to come to my mat and come into prayer pose to begin. And I have some blocks, so if you have a block, you might have that handy. May or may not need it. So find yourself in prayer, reaching forward, lifting your forearms off the floor, spreading your hands and bringing your forehead down, lengthening your spine, kind of wrapping your elbows in and broadening in your upper back. Taking a couple of breaths here. And then you might let your hips come back. You might tuck your toes and let the hips come back. Just stretch into the bottoms of your feet a little bit, bringing the hips back to the heels. Feeling that deep fold at the front of your hips, breathing. And then untuck your toes and try bringing your hips all the way back. You could make your knees a little bit wider, like the width of the mat. Coming into child's pose. Sometimes doing child's pose right at the beginning of practice, our forehead doesn't want to come down comfortably to the floor, so if you make your knees wider, it makes it a little bit easier. And then just come up to hands and knees. And round your spine, coming into cat. And then tip your pelvis, letting your back arch, letting the belly drop. Inhale into cow. Exhale, lifting belly, exhaling all the air out. Starting the movement with your pelvis, moving through cat-cow. One more time through. And the next time you come into cat like this, bring your hips back into child's pose. Take a breath. And then come forward, rounding your spine, and then come into cow, and then cat, and bring the hips back. Pause for a moment, take a breath. Rounding, coming forward, and then arching into cow. One more time, round your spine. Exhale all the air out, then bring your hips back. Pause, take a breath. And then exhaling, coming forward with a rounded spine, and then into cow again. And then coming back to your flat back again. This time, tuck your toes and press up into downward facing dog. So your knees might be really bent. Wrapping the elbows in so your shoulder blades can slide down the rib cage. And then you might press into one heel and the other, bending into one knee at a time. And then maybe from here, you could come forward into cobra. And then lift up and come back to downward facing dog. Just doing that a couple times, rounding as you come forward and then arching your back. Bring your thighs down, lift the belly, tuck the toes, lift up. Coming back to downward dog, one more time. Rounding as you come forward and then unfurling your spine. And then back to child's pose again with the knees a little bit wider than normal. Take a breath. And then back up to hands and knees. Tuck your toes again, back up to downward facing dog. And then just walk yourself forward into a forward bend. So you probably need to bend the knees a lot. Finding your feet about hip width. And you can bend your knees a lot. Lengthening your spine, so your spine is long and neutral. Keeping the shoulder blades on the back of the rib cage. Keeping the neck long, another breath. And then just sweeping your arms up, lifting and reaching up. And hands together at the heart. So just pause for a moment. Just gonna peek at, hi Sophie. I'm just peeking to see if anybody has any, oh hi Sasha, hi Janice, hi Mary Lou. If anybody has any requests for practice, let me know. So, finding your standing mountain pose. So planting your feet on the floor, spreading your toes, kind of feeling the pose from the ground up. So finding the neutral spine here, lifting pubic bone, grounding your sacrum, lifting through your sternum, and then raising your arms up, lifting your gaze, and exhale, come forward again with a long spine. You can bring your hands wherever they come on your legs or to the floor, but just keeping this long spine, hinging at the hip, taking a couple breaths here. We're going to do one slow, long sun salutation. And then from here, we'll step the left foot back, coming into a low lunge with a knee down. So bringing your weight back up and over your knee, over your left knee. Let your arms float up. Nice steady breath, finding your gaze. And then bring your hands together at your heart. Walk that foot forward. And then coming into an easy twist, bringing your left hand down to the floor, lifting the right arm up. You might circle your arm a couple times, bringing it back and around one more time. Just warming up your body. And then bringing that hand down. Step back to downward facing dog. And here in your down dog, you can step your left foot back over the right foot, lifting your left hip, lifting belly, reaching through both hands, wrapping the elbows in, feeling the stretch all the way up the left side of your body, and back through center, and stepping your right foot over left, lifting your right hip. Keep sliding your shoulder blades down the rib cage, wrapping the elbows in, and back through center. Exhale forward into plank pose, keeping your head lifted. Pause in plank. Taking a couple breaths. You can always have your knees down. And then coming down to the floor with your elbows by your sides. Sweeping your arms back, clasping your hands, and lifting toes, rolling up, Coming into locust pose. Maybe rolling onto your side. You could come to your left side. And then over to the other side, to the right. And back to center. And then release your arms. Come into Sphinx. Just bring your arms forward. Elbows a little bit in front of the shoulders. Lifting belly. Feel like you're dragging your heart through. Nice steady breath. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose. And then bringing the hands back under the shoulders. Bend your knees. Tuck your toes. Lift your hips. Coming into your downward facing dog again. And here you might reach your right hand back towards your left lower leg or ankle. You could look underneath your left arm. So you're in a little twist. Really planting your left hand and wrapping that elbow in. Shoulder can slide, shoulder blade can slide down the rib cage. And then coming to the other side, reaching with your left hand for your right ankle or lower leg. Maybe looking under your right shoulder, right arm. Lifting belly. And releasing that. And then we'll step the left foot forward, bring the right knee down. Bring the weight back so you're balancing over the right knee. Arms float up. Lift the gaze, find your breath. And then bringing the right hand down and the left arm up. So coming into a little twist, circling your left arm. If that feels good. And then reaching up, opening the chest, let your head come back. And then we're going to step forward into forward bend. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. One more time. Exhale. And then inhale, bring your arms up. And exhale, hands together at your heart. Just pause for a moment. Take a couple breaths. I'm just peeking at the screen in case anybody, a more yin practice. Okay. It's funny because I have been doing more yin practices, Mary Lou, but tonight I was like, I'm going to do a more energetic practice. But you know how to modify, so if it gets to be too much. So we can do some of both. So raising your arms up again, lengthening up. Exhale, come forward. Uttanasana, forward bend. Steady breath. And then from here, we'll step the right foot to the back of the mat with the back heel lifted, coming up into warrior one, squaring the hips. So we're not pitching forward at all. Helps to bend the back knee to keep this neutral orientation of your pelvis and spine. Relax your face and jaw and breathe. And then here we'll bring the hands together at the heart and we'll take a twist here, bringing your right elbow to your left knee, really reaching back strongly through your left heel. You can slightly turn the heel in and twisting. You can also bring your right hand down to the floor, drawing your left hip back, taking another breath here, lifting a little under your right thigh. And then bringing the hands down, stepping back to downward dog. You can always come to prayer if you want more of a resting pose in between. And so if you'd like, you could put those two variations of downward dog together. So stepping your left foot over the right, Bringing the sole of your left foot to the floor. You can always lift the heel of your right foot if you need to. And then reaching through your right hand, you can reach with your left hand, maybe for one of the ankles. So you're in a twist. Breathing. And then bringing that hand back, stepping the foot back, and the right foot then comes over the left. Reaching with your right hand for the right ankle. Really wrapping the left armpit and elbow in so you can keep that shoulder blade moving down the rib cage, pressing into your hand, and then releasing. And let's exhale into plank pose again. And taking a couple of breaths. You could lift one foot and the other. Staying steady. Lifting your navel. And then down, elbows bending by your sides and coming into your cobra. And you could also come into Sphinx pose, come a little lower if you prefer. If you're coming up, roll the shoulders back and down, lengthening up through the crown of the head, opening the chest. One more breath. And then lifting up, bend your knees, tuck your toes, back to downward facing dog. Take a breath. And then let's lift the right foot straight up so the leg floats up, hips stay level. So you're in a three-legged dog. Let that leg come down. Try to keep the rest of your body still. Lift left leg. Drawing the right hip up and back. And let that foot float down. And then we'll step the right foot forward. Coming into warrior one, hips are square, bending the back knee. Steady gaze, steady breath. Hands come together at the heart and we'll take the twist. So really strong in your left leg, reaching back through the heel, lifting a little bit under your left thigh. And taking the twist, you could also bring your left hand to the floor. And then unwinding and stepping forward, forward bend. And sweeping the arms up. Grounding yourself, bringing your hands together at your heart. And we'll do one more sun salutation-like sequence. Raising the arms. And then come into chair pose. So you might wiggle your feet together so the balls of your feet are touching. Your heels are slightly apart. So the knees are together. Sitting back, like you're trying to reach your sit bones back for a wall behind you. Reaching. And then come into your forward bend. You can wiggle your feet apart a little. You could try, if it's part of your practice, lifting the foot and bringing the hand underneath. So the toes kind of come up on the wrists a little. You can bend your knees a lot. Breathing. And then release your hands. And let's step the left foot back to the back of the mat. And then flip your heel. So bring the heel down this time. And windmill your arms up so you're in warrior two. So the gaze is over your fingertips of your right hand, and you're coming down lower. Try to relax the shoulders. You could flip your hands and then turn them around again. And then flip your right palm and take an easy counter warrior, reverse warrior. And then come in, flow into extended side angle, maybe with your elbow on your knee, or you could come into the deeper version with your hand down towards the ankle. So you're kind of spinning your rib cage, feeling both feet firmly on the floor. And then come back up to warrior two. And then clasp your hands behind your back, keeping your back heel down. Come into a little bow, bringing your arms up. So bringing the head towards the front ankle, lifting your belly, releasing your hands, and then turning towards the front and step back to downward facing dog. Just taking a breath here. Letting your down dog be a resting pose for a moment. And then exhale, come forward into plank pose. You can bring the knees down if you like. And then coming all the way down. And your choice, you could come, bring your hands back and clasp your hands and roll up. Or maybe you prefer Sphinx pose. So take a couple breaths. And then bring in the hands underneath the shoulders. Bend your knees, tuck your toes. Coming back up to downward facing dog. I'm going to switch to do the other side. And then from here, we're going to step, let me see, the left foot to the front of the mat. And we'll come up into warrior two. So spinning your heel down, bending into the front knee. So it's like somebody's pulling on your hand almost. So your body is kind of straight up and down. You're wrapping this hip open. Gaze is over your fingertips, warrior gaze. Maybe coming a little deeper. And then flipping your palm, taking your reverse warrior. Maybe lifting the gaze, just keeping the neck long, so not dropping the head. And then spinning your arms into extended side angle pose. So maybe elbow to knee, trying not to collapse into your shoulder though, lifting up, or maybe bringing your hand down, opening the rib cage, opening the hips, and then coming back up, clasp your hands behind you and bow forward, bringing the head towards the foot, feeling the outer edge of your right foot and the floor, pressing against the floor, releasing your hands. And this time we'll step forward, forward bend. Take a breath. And we're going to come up through our chair pose. So you might walk your feet closer together, bringing the inner edges of the balls of the feet together. Heels might be slightly apart, knees together. Sweep the arms up. Sit your hips back. And then straighten the legs. Hands together at your heart. Pause for a moment. And then let's step the feet wide apart. You could press out through your hands. Lengthen up through the crown of the head. Draw the fingertips back. And then come forward. Hinging forward at the hip. You can always use a block. And bending into one knee and the other. Maybe moving your shoulders. And then you might bend deeper into your right knee, keeping the left foot on the floor. Maybe bringing your right elbow into the knee. You might stay up on your hands or come down further, depending on your body. Try not to let the right knee come too far forward. Your sit bones are reaching back, so your spine is long. Steady breath. Big stretch of the inside of your thigh. And then making your way through center and over to the other side. So again, it could be up here. You could come down a little deeper and press your left elbow into your knee. Trying not to round to get to the floor, so come up higher if that happens. And then coming back to center. And let's turn so that we're coming into pyramid with the left foot forward. So the right foot is angled so that the toes are angled towards the edge of your mat. Your feet are hip width. So your hands might be up higher, depending on your hamstrings and your ability to come forward without rounding. So drawing your left hip back, keep your foot really planted. So feel the mound underneath the big toe on your left foot is pressing into the floor and you're drawing the hip back. And you're breathing. And then taking a twist. So you might bring your right hand just down by the left foot and bring your left hand maybe back to your sacrum or lifting the arm. You could turn and look up if that's okay for your neck. Continuing to draw the left hip back, right hip forward. You're just opening the chest. It's a challenging pose. Revolved triangle. Feel your belly lifting, your breath is steady. And then bringing that arm down. Let's rock forward onto the left foot. Lift your right foot. Press through the heel. So you're in Warrior 3 with your hands down. And let's lift your left hand and come into the twist like we just did, this time with the right foot lifted. Your fingers could be light on the floor. And then bringing the left hand down, spin into half moon pose. So left fingertips come to the outer, just kind of diagonal from the little toe on your left foot. Stacking the hips, opening the chest. I'm looking down, but I'm keeping my neck long. And then bringing the hand down. Step back to pyramid. And just take a breath there, just pause. You can always use blocks under your hands too for these poses. Turning and facing the front of your mat, or coming back to your wide-legged straddle forward bend. You could walk your hands forward, kind of like you're in a downward facing dog with really wide legs. Walking your hands in. You can turn the toes in a little bit and kind of stretch into the outer part of your lower legs. Just be careful with your knees, but that's a pretty needed stretch for me. Just bending the knees, turning the toes in. And then straightening your legs again, we'll turn to pyramid with the right foot forward. So stepping your left foot a little wider. Hands could be up a little higher or on the floor. You can use a block. Spine is long. And again, you're really pressing into that, into the mound under your big toe, your right big toe. You could even bend your right knee a little bit, and then as you straighten it, draw your right hip back. Left hip comes forward a little bit. Feet are hip width. This is pyramid. And then you might come into your revolved triangle. So left fingertips are on the floor, and you're opening your chest. Drawing that right hip back, lifting your belly, breathing. Opening the chest, the head can come back a little. Bringing that hand down. Finding your breath again. Then we'll step up, lifting left foot up. Warrior 3 with your fingertips on the floor. And then coming into the twist, so right arm lifts. Light on your fingertips. Again, right hip drawing back. Press through your heel. And then bringing your right hand down, your fingertips come just diagonal from your little toe, spinning your hips, so stacking your hips and lifting your left arm. Might be able to lift your fingertips off the floor. You can play with it. And then coming back through Warrior 3, bringing your foot down. Back to pyramid. Pause for a moment. And then turn to face the front of the mat again. You might bring your hands together and clasp your hands and stretch into your shoulders here. Keep your shoulders and your head lifted so you're not rounding. But the shoulders can come over. And release your hands. Walking your hands over towards your right ankle or lower leg. And taking that stretch into the left side of your body. And then walking back through center, over to the other side. Lifting your tail. And then walking back to center. And just heel toe your feet in so they're about hip width. And come into this low squat. Go sideways here. So your feet are like kind of a little wider than a mat or than the hips. I guess it depends on how wide your hips are. Sitting back, you might reach your arms forward for counterbalance. They can stay down also. And release and just let it go. And then let's just step back to downward facing dog. Lifting your right leg straight up. Come up onto the ball of your foot. And then draw your right knee forward, round your spine. Come into pigeon. So the knee is a little angled out towards the edge of your mat, a little wider than the hip. And you might walk your hands back and come into this upward facing pigeon. A little bit of a back bend. Lifting belly. And then walking forward, maybe to forearms. Taking a few breaths here. Coming back to your calm, steady breath. Breathing in and out through the nose. Feeling it where you feel it. Keeping your long spine. And then taking a twist. So you might bring your forearm, your left forearm across the front of the mat, maybe reaching for the knee with your left hand. And bringing your right hand back for the sacrum. Keeping the hips right where they are so you're not leaning and lifting your right hip. The twist is happening in your upper back. And then turning and releasing that twist, bringing your left hand in front of you, and maybe you're reaching for your foot. If that's not accessible to you, you could just come into the twist, maybe lift the foot. If you have your foot, kind of pull your hand so that you're feeling an opening in the front of your shoulder on the right side, and then release that. And then try bringing your right hand by the knee, reaching back with your left hand for your left foot. Maybe you're here, maybe you can turn your fingertips and come into this quad stretching variation. It also could be that you aren't lifting your foot and you're just coming like this. So wherever you find yourself in your variation of it, taking a couple breaths, committing to it, feeling good about it, and slowly releasing. And we'll step back to downward facing dog. Just bending into one knee and the other, moving the hips a little. And then we'll lift the left leg straight up, come up onto the ball of your right foot, reaching up, keeping the hips square, and then rounding, drawing the knee forward, and we'll do pigeon on the other side. So knees angling out towards the edge of the mat. So first in this upward facing position, a little bit of a back bend, and then walking forward, maybe your forearms. You can always have a block. So taking a few breaths here. Stay with your breath. And then your right forearm could come across the front of your mat, reaching for your left knee with your right hand, bringing your left hand back to your sacrum and opening your chest. So the twist is happening in your upper back. Your hips stay right where they are. And then turning, bringing your left hand down in front of your left knee, and actually let's bring your right hand in front of your left knee and reach back with your left hand for the twist. So you could turn to look back, keeping your chin kind of level with the floor, opening the chest, breathing, so big stretch in the front of your right hip and your belly, and then releasing that, bring your left hand down, right hand back, or you could bring it just to the thigh. Maybe you can get your foot, maybe you stay here, or maybe you spin your fingertips and come into the quad stretching variation where your heel is coming towards your buttock. Wherever you are, finding your breath, being committed to your breath, and releasing that. And then from here, let's lean to the left and bring the right foot around. I'm going to turn to face the camera. So we're going to come into a seated twist. So finding the sit bones grounding on the floor. So if that is hard to do with the left knee bent, just straighten your left leg. And then when you really feel your spine is lengthening up and you feel the sit bones grounding, you could wrap your left elbow around your right knee or maybe underneath, keeping the shoulder from crunching forward, and then just turning your spine and breathing. And what if you were to release your hands? Would you really be able to stay there? You could try it. Getting some leverage with your arm. And one more breath, and then just turning back towards the front. And let's come into steer pose. Again, it could be with the bottom leg straight. So stacking your knees. You can come forward and stack the knees and then bring the sit bones back down. So feel your sit bones grounding here. And maybe that's enough. Maybe this is just where you need to be. Maybe there's a little bit of hinge at the hip as you slowly come forward with this long spine. So breathing, Gomukhasana, steer pose. Pretty intense pose. And then coming back up, and let's just lean back and flip-flop your legs. So bringing your left foot over your right knee. So if that, again, if you're coming into this twist and it's hard to get your sit bones grounding without any discomfort in your knee, then just straighten your bottom leg, so straighten the right leg. Otherwise, you can have both knees bent, sitting up tall, grounding yourself. You're just going to turn your spine. Maybe do that without your hands to begin with, so you're just turning, breathing. Maybe the left hand comes down behind you and the right hand tucks under, just to give you a little more leverage. Opening your chest. And then turning back, and we'll kind of lean forward and stack the knees. Again, the bottom leg could be straight. Grounding the sit bones, you might stay right there and just breathe into it. There's a lot of sensation in this pose for most people. And then we'll slowly unwind and swing your left leg back and step up into downward facing dog and just kind of even yourself out there. Maybe moving your hips a little. Just taking another breath, and then come down to your knees, your hands and knees, and find tabletop. Let's reach back through the right foot, tuck your toes, and you can just press the ball of your foot into the floor, rock a little bit forward and back, keeping the head lifted, lifting belly. And then let that foot come up and press straight back through your heel, reaching forward with the left arm. in your tiger pose. You can also lift your left foot just slightly off the floor if you want a little more. And then releasing, and make some hip circles. Just make them in your own shape. Maybe switching directions. And then coming back to hands and knees, this time reaching back through the left foot, tuck your toes, and just kind of pressing and rocking a little bit into your heel back and forth on the ball of the foot. And then letting that foot come up, press through your heel, reach forward with your right arm. Lengthening, lifting belly, navel towards the spine, breathing. Maybe lifting your right foot just a couple centimeters off the floor. And release that, and circle your hips again. Maybe your head goes in the opposite direction of the hips. And coming back to hands and knees again. And let's try this. This time you're going to come to one side, so you're going to lift your left foot and lean a little bit towards the right, and then lift your left hand. So you're balancing on one side. And then release that side. And then we'll lean towards the left, lift the right leg. Keep your hips kind of, they're not opening, so keep them pretty level. And reach your right arm forward. So one side might be a little easier than the other. Noticing. And release that. And circle the hips again. And then just walk your knees back, come into your high-hipped prayer. Walk your hands over towards the left. So we're really drawing your right hip back and reaching through the right hand. And then over towards the right. Drawing the left hip back. And then back to center. Let's come up to hands and knees and extend your left leg out to the side. So the toes are pointed forward, and planting your right hand, lifting up, open up into a twist. So you're kind of stacking your shoulders and reaching, and then you might do a little thoracic rotation a couple of times, moving, kind of threading the needle there, and pause, and then bringing your hand down, step that foot in, reaching your right foot out to the side, toes are pointing straight forward, opening up into the twist. So really stacking your shoulders and lifting up. And then a couple of those rotations, kind of reaching under. And pause in the twist again. Hand comes down, stepping your knee in. Come into prayer for a moment. Then let's bring the forearms to the floor. We're going to tuck the toes. You could clasp your hands, it's a little bit easier, or you could also just keep your forearms flat on the floor, straight out from the elbows. Tuck your toes and lift up. lifting hips. So you're in dolphin pose. You could slide your dolphin. Just keep looking at the floor, lifting the belly. Don't come too far forward, just being mindful of your shoulders and the range of motion you have here with your body weight. And then bring your knees down. Maybe bring the arms back and rest for a moment. And then let's do one more. So again, your forearms, try to plant your elbows just in front of your shoulders, and then bring your palms to the floor, the fingertips, without rounding the shoulders in. So you're rotating the forearm. Shoulders stay right where they are. Tuck your toes and lift up. This time, we're gonna lift up one foot. You might play with a little, bend your knee and hop a little, just suspending yourself, like you're gonna come into a forearm stand. And then try the other leg. And come down. Make your knees pretty wide, like wider, like you're going to come into frog, but your feet are together. And take a couple breaths there with the wide knees. Arms are forward. And then maybe you can bring your feet so the heels come down from the knees, so you're in a frog pose like this. Knees are wide. You can always do this on your back if it hurts the knees, keeping the spine long and breathing. Trying to avoid just dropping the head, so keep the neck long too. And then bring the feet in again, and you might try coming up onto your hands, so you're kind of in a cobra pose with your knees apart. Could do a lion's breath. Maybe one more time. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth with the tongue out. And then bring your hips back and walk your knees in. Just come into child's pose, bring your hands back. And taking a couple breaths here, just resting for a moment. And then coming back up. So a couple options. You could, we're going to do Virasana or hero pose. So what we normally do is we roll the calf out. So the heel is just kind of on the outside of the sit bone. You can do this with one leg. So if you can do this with both, that's fine. You're going to come back, maybe you're coming back to your elbows or all the way down. And if that's just way too much, then you might bring one leg forward, maybe with a knee bent. And maybe you stay here. So it's a stretch of your quads. You might be able to come back to elbows. You can also straighten your leg. So taking your variation, I'll stay here in the one-legged variation. No twist in your knee. I mean, there's just a tiny twist because you're bringing the heel to the outside, but you're being careful with your knee is the point I'm trying to make. Not pushing into any harmful position. So staying with your breath. There's a little sense that you're tucking your pelvis. just to bring it back to a more neutral curve. And then if you're in the one-legged variation, switch legs. If you're in the two-legged and you want to stay there, you can stay, or you can come out when you're ready. So rolling the calf muscle out, bringing the heel just to the outside of your buttock, or you might be able to come down further, just finding your spot. If neither of those works for you, you can also stand and do a standing quad stretch. This might be easier too. And then just releasing that. Bring your legs forward and just kind of doing this with your knees. You might let your feet kind of flop side to side so the femurs are kind of rolling around inside the hip joint, rotating. And then walk your feet in, and you can turn your fingertips in towards your body and lift the hips. Keep your chin tucked. Again, it's kind of like you're tucking your pelvis, just to take some of that, a little bit of the arch out, and then slowly bringing the hips back down. You can turn your fingertips back towards behind you and lift up like that. Might feel different. If it feels good to let your head come back, you can do that. And then slowly bringing your hips down. And then maybe rounding your spine intentionally, drawing the belly in. And then letting your knees come apart, coming into cobbler's pose or bound angle. So letting your knees drop towards the floor. You might bring your elbows kind of into the thighs, or maybe bringing your hands to your feet and finding your spine. I'm gonna scooch a little closer. Then extend your right leg. Let your left knee drop out to the side. And you can use a strap for this, or just coming forward. You can maybe reach your foot, maybe keeping the hands on the floor. We're gonna keep this long spine here. If you can reach your foot and you're drawing your toes back towards your shin, that's gonna really brighten the stretch in the back of the calf, and you're coming forward. Nice steady breath. And then coming back up. Let's just switch sides. So straightening your left leg, bringing your the sole of your right foot into the thigh, left thigh. And then bending forward, hinging at the hip. Maybe reaching for the toes and the ball of the foot. Nice steady breath. I don't know if you can see me there. I'm just gonna bring the camera down since I'll be lower. And then releasing that. And let's sit in a straddle position. So finding your long spine here. Sometimes it helps to bring the hands back and kind of lift the heart. Might be right where you stay. You might be able to come forward a bit. Keeping that long neutral spine, so you're really not coming forward by pulling your head forward. Hinging at your hip. The toes are pointing straight up. You're flexing your feet. big stretch. And then walking your hands back in. Let's turn towards the right foot. So starting with just a twist. And then maybe you can walk your hands into a forward bend. So it's kind of a forward bend with a twist over your right leg. So your left sit bone kind of wants to pull up, and just kind of gently draw it back towards the floor. You can maybe even walk your hands over to the other side of the leg. And then bringing your hands on the inside, maybe the elbow and shoulder to the inside. For me, it's more, well, you could also just walk this arm forward and bring the elbow into the shoulder into the knee. Maybe the arm comes up and over. Some people can reach for their foot. For me, I'm going to keep my arm lifted, trying to kind of spin open your rib cage, keeping the left sit bone is coming back towards the floor. Keeping your neck long with the rest of your spine, so it's tempting to drop the head, but one more breath, and then pull yourself up. And we'll take the twist in the opposite direction. And then we're going to come forward towards the left foot. Maybe even reaching the hands on the opposite side of the leg, or maybe for the foot. This is a good place to really stay focused on your breath. Ujjayi breathing, so maybe a little tiny closure at the back of the throat, and then you can hear your breath. The glottis is slightly constricted. And then maybe that left arm comes on the inside shoulder into the thigh. Maybe you can reach for the foot. Some people can reach for the foot and then kind of spin the chest open. I'm going to keep my arm up and my head lifted, grounding my right sit bone, turning my palm towards the back of the room. Navel's drawing in, just engaging, and then coming back up, and another forward bend. Maybe you're just up here, but there's some forward motion, particularly leading with your heart. Again, nice, steady breath. And then walking your hands back in, and bring your legs together. And let's roll down. Keep your feet on the floor, rolling back, tucking your pelvis under. And just pause here. Feel your belly working, slowly rolling all the way down, and draw the knees in towards the chest. Circle your knees. In one direction and then in the other direction. Planting your feet on the floor. And I'm going to press my hands right into the tops of my thighs and get a little bit of traction in my low back. Kind of scooping the belly out. And then let's come into bridge pose, so lift the hips slowly. You might tuck one shoulder and then the other under, maybe clasping your hands underneath you, lifting hips a little higher, keeping that curve in the back of the neck. breathing. And then release the arms and slowly roll down. And then you have a choice. You could come back up and do another bridge pose. Or maybe tonight you'd like to do full wheel. You could also do bridge pose just with the arms up over the head. Or if you're coming into a back bend, a full back bend, bring your hands, turning your fingertips towards the shoulders and lifting up. Maybe coming up onto the balls of your feet. And with your breath, as you exhale, kind of rocking back, opening the shoulders. Taking a couple breaths here. And then slowly rolling down from whichever pose you're in. And just lifting your feet and rocking a little bit side to side. You might want a strap for the next thing we're going to do, or you may not need one. So extend your left leg, and you're going to reach up with your right foot. So if you need a strap here, please use one. We're trying to keep our shoulders from rounding up or crunching up. So you might have your right hand on your foot, scooping your belly up and pressing your tailbone back towards the floor. And then we'll take the right foot with our right hand or maybe the strap, and you might kind of bring your left hand to the left hip, just keeping it down as you open your leg out to the side. The toes are, the foot is flexed. You could also bring your left arm out to the side for a little counterbalance. Sometimes people also bend the knee for that purpose, but you could also straighten through your left leg. And then bringing that foot back up, bringing your right foot into your left hand around your, bringing your left hand around the outer edge of the right foot. You can also use a strap. Maybe the right arm comes out to the side, and then that leg comes over really slowly. Before you peel your sacrum up, just pause there. So you haven't lifted sacrum yet. Feeling that in your outer thigh. And then maybe the foot comes over further into the twist. Maybe it comes to a block, or maybe it comes down to the floor. This right hip is rolling down. You might reach for your left foot with your right hand, bending the left knee. And find your steady breath. Then releasing your left foot and bringing that leg back up just for a moment. And release that. And then we'll straighten the right leg. You can also keep your right knee bent if that's better for your body. And either with a strap or with your hands, reaching for your left foot with your left hand or strap. Maybe straightening your right leg. Pressing tailbone back towards the floor. So you're not rolling up in your low back. Your low back is not rounding. You can use the strap to, you don't have to come really deep into the back of your leg at the expense of your spine. And then taking your hand or strap around the left foot and opening that leg out to the side so you're feeling the stretch in the inner thigh. Maybe the right arm comes out for counterbalance. Toes are flexed. And then bringing it back up, taking the foot, left foot with the right hand on the outer edge or the strap, kind of drawing this left hip down. As you slowly bring the leg over for a twist, you might just come without lifting sacrum and just pause there, feeling it in the outer hamstring and IT band. And then letting it come down into the twist, slowly. And maybe you're rolling that hip down. You might reach for your right foot with your left hand. So you're in a twist, maybe looking back over your left shoulder. Nice steady breath. And then release your right leg, bringing that leg back up. Pause for a moment, maybe lifting your head and rounding up. And then release, draw the knees in towards the chest. And just rocking, maybe making little circles with your knees. And maybe reaching and coming a little deeper into the fold of the front of the hips. And then maybe the soles of the feet are together, coming down to the floor, so you're bringing yourself into a reclined, bound angle position. Maybe the arms come up over the head, clasping the elbows. And just take a couple breaths here, preparing yourself for corpse pose or Shavasana. Letting the breath come back to its own comfortable rhythm. Then releasing your elbows, bringing your arms down by your sides and straightening the legs out. Backs of the hands are on the floor, and you're in your corpse pose. I'm going to come back to my seat, but stay on your back in your final resting pose, Shavasana, corpse pose. Just staying, taking some breaths there, and allowing yourself to be heavy and relaxed. Letting your body release. So allowing gravity to support you completely. Surrendering the weight of your body. If you set an intention for your practice this evening, you might kind of bring yourself back to your intention for a moment. Just allowing your practice to kind of integrate, and then when you're ready, you could begin to roll onto your right side and come back to your seated position, finding your long spine and your free and deep breathing. Taking a couple of balanced breaths in your upright position. Letting the breath be very steady and calm. Letting the inhale and exhale be seamless. Finding your relaxed face. And then from there, you could bring your hands together at your heart, bow your head to your practice, bow your head to your own inner teacher, to your higher self or your higher power. Namaste. Thank you so much for practice this evening, and I will see you in about an hour and 15 minutes for meditation if you're joining. Thank you. Namaste.